Talk a little about your views with the library on intellectual freedom.
I'm an enormous supporter of intellectual freedom. In terms of recent things I've seen within ALA about intellectual freedom, there's really nothing that I'm terribly, there's nothing the ALA is doing right now that I think is pushing any envelope whatsoever. I have a tremendous issue with the way that copyright is currently enforced. I stand to the far left when it comes to intellectual freedom. I'm one of those people who's been part of the EFF for over, 8 or 9 years. I look at intellectual freedom from an electronic perspective as opposed to a print perspective. I have great respect and admiration for everyone who dealt with, who's ever had to dealt with any issues related to, what am I thinking? My brain just melted. Any kind of restrictions to intellectual freedom I find offensive, because the reality is that we're in an environment right now where information is shared so easily and so flexibly. The role of the library in terms of copyright, I just think, is radically changing, and I see that I see a lot of traditional librarians who have a very strict, closed view of what copyright should look and feel like. And my perspective is simply that we have to respect the law first and foremost. But when we look at electronic resources, it's not clear how we can share information. And a good example for you is I had a discussion with some folks from ProQuest, and I said, one of the questions I have about providing information on intellectual freedom and copyright with my students is simply that if a student downloads a PDF from ProQuest, how long are they allowed to keep it, and are they allowed to disseminate it? And my trainer from ProQuest looked at me and said, that is a good question. And she said, it depends on which publisher it is. And I said, that answer isn't good enough, because our college level students will download their PDF from ProQuest and they have no issue with sending it to their classmate, because they don't see it as any different as when we were in graduate school and we would make a photocopy of an article and then give it to our good friend Diane so she could do her paper as well. So intellectual freedom, I think, is a really hot issue. I think copyright is really complicated. It's being enforced in very, very strict ways right now, and I think it's just going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next 10 or 15 years as our digital world grows exponentially and how it's applied. It's just,
So one of the things you just talked about was with vendors. What's your relationship with vendors?
I've had a fantastic relationship with vendors. Coming from that technology perspective, we've had some vendors who've looked at what we do as an institution and they're like, oh, can you participate in our focus group? Because we want to hear a contrarian view. Because, this is the future of libraries. I really think that. I think libraries, in terms of how we serve our patrons, is going to need to focus on the electronic, because that's the new world of publishing. It's the new world of information sharing. It's not happening in print. Not so much. When I look at explosive, radical, exciting ideas, I see them electronically first. I'm not seeing, when I think about all of the breakthrough ideas, where are they actually coming from? Where are they being discussed? Where are they being disseminated from? The majority of them are originating online, even within the ALA, which I find wonderful.